Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. We are live, and this is Fright Club. And tonight we are doing Clive Barker, Weaveworld. Hey, yeah. And I've got two awesome guests with me. Oh, you got an awesome edition there. Stuart, you're going to have to show us that. But yeah, I've got two guests with me. Very awesome. That's Mark from TheBookThing and Stuart from Stuart Griffin. How are you doing, guys?
Great.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Welcome to the show. And okay, so Clive Barker Weaveworld. What we're going to do this video is the first part of the video. We're not going to give any spoilers away. So it's going to be kind of a spoiler-free, kind of a relaxed chat about the book in general. So you can get a feel of whether you want to read the book or not. But then we're going to go in-depth spoiler territory into the book because there's a lot to talk about. Because it's a big book, people. It's a big book. There's a lot of themes, a lot of characters. So we're going to have a fun discussion. So yeah, we're going to go for it. At first, we're going to go for the premise of the book. And I'm going to ask one of our gentlemen there who would like to tackle this. Just a basic premise of the book. Stuart?
The basic premise is that early on we discover that there is an alternate world called the Fugue, which was weaved into a carpet, and that there is a guardian of the carpet in our world, what they call the cuckoos, and there's a seer kind in the cuckoos. And that's basically it. We're introduced to the main characters, but basically there's a separate world, which we learn as we go along, why they had to weave it into a carpet and why they need to protect it.
Yeah. Want to add to that? Yeah, that's pretty
spot on. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. I mean, if you want an indication of what the few people in it are like, something like the characters from Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream is not a million miles away from where it is, but it is genuinely as bonkers as Stuart has said. It is. They took the world and all its inhabitants and they wove it into a carpet.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the Fugue and the characters. And the cuckoos as well, because they kind of a contrast between the cuckoos and the Shere Khan. We'll talk about that later as well. But first of all, let's talk about, and I didn't actually put this down, but the structure of the novel, like the length. Do you think it's too long, too short? Talk about the writing, Clive Barker's writing, and also kind of I find it very fascinating the way it structures the novel. I'm going to let you guys go first. This is how we're going to do it. It makes it more fun for me because then I can just chime in at the end. So who's going to go first? Mark? We'll alternate.
Yeah, sure. One I think's it's structured in a series of 3 books in there, and it actually does feel like, rather than a single novelization, that this is a collection of 3 books. And I don't know, did he write it over a period of time and release it? Because I vaguely remember it being released as just 1 volume when it came out, but it does feel, it does feel like a series that's been gathered together, and each of the 3 books, they do have their own sort of separate plot and thread and feel to them, and it's almost like reading a collected series rather than reading 1 book. And for that reason, the length didn't really bother me that much, because it is a long book, but it feels like you're reading 3 books rather than 1. So it's like picking up Lord of the Rings or something like that. You know, it's long, but there are 3 books in it.
Yeah. Stuart?
What I think about the structure of this book is just the way that he alternated the various major players. Like they had chapters or sub-chapters throughout, the villains and the protagonist. And I thought that was good. And as far as the length goes, I didn't get bored. I mean, the version I have, I don't know if you can see, like it's like thick, and it's small font too. It's like 650 pages, small font. But no, I mean, there was a point, I think maybe about 200 pages left. I thought maybe it's about, it should kind of be wrapping up, but it did, and it kept my interest. It kept my interest to the end. So I will say that I'm glad you guys like allowed us like July, because I didn't complete by the end of June. I had a lot to read in July. So, but yeah, I think it worked. I mean, I suppose people like, could say, why did you do 2 books? I don't know, but it worked. I thought it worked. I never lost interest in it the way he wrote it. It was never, I wanted to know what was going to happen. But it worked for me. But I could understand how it wouldn't work for some people.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you, Stuart. I was never bored at the whole time. So even though it was long, it just tripped along at a really nice pace. And there wasn't any point when I was started looking and thinking, oh, how long's more of this is going to be? And that I have done that with long books. I suppose we all have. But this one, it kept my interest all the way through.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in now because I mean this is the 3rd time that I've read this book. It's up in my top 5 books of all time, and I absolutely love it. And I love, and as I said about not just how it's structured, but the writing. The writing people, the prose is so beautiful and so imaginative, so special. And I actually want to read something quickly because I know that this might be in your edition, Stuart. It's not in our edition because Clive Barker gave a introduction in one of the editions, and I'm not sure what it is, but I want to read this. I want to think about why I like this book so much, like why I love this book so much. When I read it as a teen, when I was a troubled teen first. So yeah, I just seemed jumping on my screen, but like yeah, I was a troubled teen. I was struggling, and I want to read this to you. And yes, fantastic fiction can be intricately woven into the texture of our daily lives, addressing important issues in fabulous form. So yes, it can be relevant to us, but it also serves to release us for a time from the definitions that confine our daily lives, and to unplug us from a world that wounds and disappoints us, allowing us to venture into places of magic and transformation. So that's from the man himself, and that's an introduction in one of the, I don't know which edition it is. I'm actually surprised it's not in our edition, but I just find that very profound. And that basically is why I love this book and why I loved it when I was a teen, because I was wounded and by society, and it, in a way, it touched me and it transformed me. It's just sheer escapism.
That very much mirrors the character Cal, who's one of the main protagonists in it, one of the cuckoo protagonists in it. That very much mirrors his experience in it. He's kind of a damaged guy, and he's dealing with the mundane, and then he comes upon the magical that's just outside of the mundane that he deals with, and he just doesn't want, and he just wants more. That was very
actually, when we talk about Cal, I think what's very important as well is that at the very start of the book, there's a passage that I'm going to talk about where pigeons escape. And Clive Barker talks about the fact that they're escaping their existence. And they're going up to something greater than themselves, spiraling in the clouds. And I think he's very much talking about Cull then, when Cull runs after them. So yeah, it's very much about, and a lot of people talk about these characters and they don't like. I've seen so many people hate on the characters in this book. But when we go into the characters, I'm going to talk about them and say, actually, they're very, very powerful. There's good character arcs there. But yeah, what I want to know, first of all, is I've given mine initial thoughts. The 3rd time I've read it, I love it. And yeah, Stuart, what are your initial thoughts when you read this book? How did it make you feel?
Yeah, when I got done with the book, it was I considered a great achievement, a towering achievement. I rated 5 stars. The only minor quibble is like some stuff came out in '87, I think. Some stuff doesn't necessarily age well, but that's a minor thing. I thought it's a great achievement. It's kind of, I don't know if we'll talk about this, but I kind of wonder how it was perceived back then, because he was a horror writer. He was a horror writer. I wonder how people were anticipating a fantasy from him, whether there's a little nervousness there or something. I don't know if we'll touch on that, but I wonder about that, because I think it's a great book. It's a great dark fantasy. You know, the length is an issue, but it's a great dark fantasy. It's a 5-star read for me. You know, it's I think it's a great book.
Yeah, no, it's, and I hear you. And remember, on this show, we can have, I mean, I've got like kind of talking points. Because like you said, you're a scout. I'm also a scout. I'm very prepared. So I've got little notes and everything. But anything that you want to bring up that's relevant to your experience with the book, you bring up. That's it. You know?
Okay.
You're just going to have fun here. So if there's something that I don't have here, you must bring it up. But yeah, Mark, your experience with the book.
Well, I did most of my Clive Barker reading when I was in sort of my early teens, when I was delving into horror. So I read a lot of his horror stuff from then, so Hellbound Heart and Skabal and things like that, and Books of Blood. I really, really enjoyed his stuff at the time. And I'd never actually picked up Weaveworld. I don't know why. I don't know whether it was because it just wasn't available in my local library or whatever it was, but I never had picked it up. So this is the first time going back to Clive Barker for me for knocking on the door of 30 years now at this point. Actually, probably significantly more than 30 years at this point. And it was a genuine surprise to me. I forgot how good a writer he actually is, and it was just to see the way he unfolded the story and the prose and the sheer imagination that he put into it. It was a really pleasant surprise, having, again, like I said, not read any Clive Barker for a very, very long time. And one thing it also did, there is another author of dark fantasy whose work I loved for a very long time, but I do not discuss anymore for various reasons.
And he who must not be named. He who must not be named. I am the same. I've got the same problem, because this was one of my favorite authors, and I'm angry about this guy. I'm actually angry, and I don't know why I've still got books on my shelf from him. But we're not going to go there. It's not part of the discussion. But it's kind of sad. It's sad.
Yeah, and I suppose my point on that was, this scratched that itch. I hadn't been able to find another sort of writer who was writing that sort of style of dark fantasy that was so highly imaginative and so adjacent to the real world. And that's the first time I'd sort of seen that since that other author, and that really scratched an itch that I didn't know I had.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And yeah, I might actually have some recommendations for you later on when we finish the show. I will give you some. Actually, I can give you one now. John Connolly, The Book of Lost Things. Write that down. If you enjoyed this, it's more like a fairy tale retelling. But if you want something dark, grotesque, similar to that author, then you might want to give that a shot. And I'll think of some more, but really, yeah. Okay, I'm going to look at some comments here, people. All right, we got Jonas. How's it? Who's this? Wow, this is going to be awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Okay. And we got my friend Bad. Hi, Cliff and everyone. I'm dropping by to say hello and have a great discussion. Thanks, my friend. And we got Alicia. Yo, yo, yo. And we got my partner in crime, my biggest fan. Hello, everyone. And we got Matt. How's Matt?
How are you, sir? Good to see you, man.
Okay, so I'm going to look now at the next topic here. Character. Okay, this is very broad because I haven't typed everything out. But I think what we should look at first is just characters. We can divide first the characters into, obviously, protagonists and antagonists, and then other interesting characters that you don't talk about so often, because there are a lot of them in this book. And I can think of one who actually should be one of the main, well, he is one of the main antagonists, but he's always spoken below Shadwell and Immaculate.
Yeah. Immaculate, yeah.
But let's talk about.
And he is. I said, I think I know who you mean, and if it is
We'll get to it. Don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun. Okay. Let's start with the antagonist. Let's start talking about Cull. Stuart, tell me about Cull. What did you think about Cull? And not just about the character, but what's the most important thing in this book is about the character arc. And a lot of people criticize these characters, and I hate it. They're good characters.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh no, I thought Cal was good. It's like his I think some discussion is like talking point is going to be the mundane versus the kind of fantastical and stuff. But like the Cal had like he was dealing with like his aging father. Seemed like his father is having some mental decline, and Cal had to deal with that. And yet he's also goes off and realizes there's a fantastical world there. I thought like sometimes like a character can just like living a normal life and almost become like super heroic with a drop of a hat. But I thought with Cal it was believable. I mean, he made mistakes. Sometimes he got through by the skin of his teeth. But I thought his arc was like his arc to where I'll talk later about what he was able to do toward the end, I guess. But his arc was believable in that, you know. He just like I thought he was a good character. He's just, you know, living kind of an average life, having kind of his little problems with his, you know, his girlfriend and stuff. And you know, he was a character I wanted to root for, you know.
Every man,
I found him a believable and a character I want to root for. It basically, I enjoyed seeing his arc through the story.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's actually totally true. Well,
to me, he was a great route into the world. I mean, like what you always want in any sort of fantastical setting is you want someone who is new to it in the same way that the reader is, so that they're experiencing all of this for the first time. They're the proxy for you. They're the stand-in for you. They're the person that you identify with. And as one of those characters, Cal was pretty damn good at that. He just had there was a level of naivety. There was a level of, you know, he was a very human character. He didn't sort of become a brave Superman overnight. I thought, but, you know, by the end of the story, even though he was hugely outmatched by anything that the Fugue had to offer, he'd really grown into someone who could genuinely contribute, and I thought that arc was done very, very well. And I also have to sort of say shout out to Cal's girlfriend, who probably doesn't get enough love in it, but who was actually a genuinely sweet and understanding character. Her name escapes me at the moment.
I can't remember. Nah.
Geraldine,
thank you. But I thought she was a sweet and understanding character, and you know, who had to put up with a hell of a lot, to be perfectly honest. And I think she did really well in that. Yeah,
no, I just think he's just so underrated as a character, and he's a dreamer. He's a dreamer. Aren't we all? Like, as human beings, you know, we dream for something better. And he's living in Liverpool. It's Liverpool, right? Where you live. And described in the book. I'm not talking about where you live now. It's described in the book. It's kind of dull, kind of boring, kind of, you know, the kind of life where you want to escape, right? And I told you about that pigeon thing, and I'm going to read that because it's freaking brilliant. Okay. There is no doubt, and this is right at the beginning of the novel. And I'm sorry, this pigeon is Cull. There is no doubt was a call 33 had heard. Oh, this no doubt was a call 33 had heard. Bored with his balanced diet of maize and maple peas, tired of the pecking order, of the loft and predictability of each day. The bird had wanted out, wanted up and away, a day of high life, of food that had to be chased a little and tasted all the better for that. Of the companionship of wild things. I love that. All this went through Cull's head in a vague sort of way while he watched the circling flocks Just love that. And then he chases after them, and then he lands in the carpet, remember? And he gets a taste of Wonderland, and he wants it back. He wants Wonderland, but in a way that's not. He ends up protecting Wonderland. But this just shows, like, every man, as you mentioned, just it's in all of us. Strive for something above ourselves, and just be more than we can be. And he's brave. He ends up being brave. He has to. He faces danger. He finds himself in difficult situations, and he comes out on top. Well, I suppose at the end. Okay, now we're going to spoiler territory totally. But at the end, he's from everything that's happened, he has been wounded.
Mm.
But then again, we're going to go into the ending later. So I love Cole. I think he's a brilliant character.
I genuinely do.
Yeah. What do you think of Susanna? Let's start.
I actually quite liked her having an arc as well. It was interesting that it was nice that the two the cuckoo characters, but again, potential spoilers beyond saying that, but it was interesting to see that.
We're into spoilers now, completely.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, the fact that the two people who were introduced to it at the same time were Cal and Suzanne. And the temptation, I mean, even back in the 80s, would have been for the male character to be the powerful one, the leader, the one with taking on all the responsibility, the one who is saving the day all the time. But in this, it was mostly Suzanne, because, she had... Yeah. I thought it was great that Barker actually just... It put her as a female character. Female characters in genre fiction, especially genre fiction written by dudes, are not typically done that well. And I actually thought this was a really good example of a strong female character. Yeah. Not for the sake of having a strong female character, but just it was a strong character who was driving the story and happened to be female.
Absolutely. Stuart?
Yeah, I think very similar to what Mark said. I think also what I said about Cal, I think applied to Susanna too. I think it was she was kind of thrust into it, and it was believable to me the way she moved forward and reacted and stuff. Again, she wasn't like she immediately Superwoman. She was believable. She did get I believe it called the menstruum, so she get that power. Yeah. But still, even that, she didn't always triumph with it. So it was, her arc was believable too, because like Cal, they didn't win all the battles, but they kept fighting, and they kept learning more as they went forward. And I liked her a lot. And I like, since we're in spoilers, I like the fact that it was slight, there was a little bit of romance between Cal and Susanna, but it wasn't major. It wasn't a focus of the story. It didn't go. There were more friends, than they were romantic partners.
Wasn't really physical, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't physical, and I thought that was good, because another thing, like Mark saying, female character, a lot of a lot of books that would become physical, and it didn't really here. And just to say too, I don't know if I like what Mark said about Geraldine. I think she was a great. I like how she supported Cal, even though she knew their relationship wasn't going to go maybe where she would have hoped it would. She was just there supporting him, and trying to understand him, even if maybe she was skeptical. She tried. She tried. Yeah. She was a good friend. She was a good friend.
It's a bit of a trope that when the existing girlfriend, when the protagonist falls in love with the more dynamic and interesting girlfriend, that they want to sort of portray the existing girlfriend as some sort of unpleasant harpy. Barker didn't do that with Geraldine at all. She was genuinely a good person who was just trying to look out for Cal, and not just Cal, but Cal's father as well.
With Susanna, I'm going to say my bit here now, because I loved her backstory as well. The fact that she's half cuckoo and half Oh, words gone off my head now. Help me, people.
Seer kind.
Yeah, seer kind. She's half cocoon, half seer kind, and she's had a difficult childhood, and she finds it difficult to face up to that childhood, and so she's got a number of issues with the past, and with the person she is when we meet her at the beginning. She's skeptical. She does not accept, a little bit like another character we're going to talk about, that police guy. She does not like to accept the reality that there's something supernatural going on, and that might have been something to do with her past. So what I love about her, she has to confront her past, and she has to become brave, and she has to start embracing her potential and embracing her powers that are newfound. And the thing as well is that these Seerkan don't like her because she's human, and yet she still, she maintains the fact that she can help them. She's the one that's going to help them, and they're not very nice people about it. Sorry, not very nice Seerkandi people about it. In fact, Seerkand, yeah, but she has to kind of confront this, and I love that arc where she becomes herself. She becomes powerful, and she does good anyway. And as you say, it's from like a kind of normal standpoint. So I don't know what these people have problem with these characters. I think they're wonderful.
I think they're great characters.
Yeah. And I would love to hear from people that are watching. What do you think? If you read this book, what do you think of the characters? And now we're talking about, Cal and Susanna. So actually, let's just quickly catch up before we get to the next section. I'm not on comments. Let me get to comments. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Yo, my friend. And Matt says, I'm going to do laundry. I'm creating a character in my game right now. I wanted to be sure to drop by the stream and see you guys. Okay. Yeah, so maybe this will fill out a bit later. But what we're going to talk now is protagonists. No, antagonists. The bad guys. And we're going to start off with the Immaculato. It's a little bit of a black witch, Black Madonna. But who's going to start? Who went last?
I went last time, so Stuart, if you want to.
Okay, yeah. Right from the beginning, she was a very scary, intimidating character. It was almost like I had trouble seeing how somebody could actually defeat her, because she was powerful, and we didn't know right away why she wanted to destroy the fugue, but she was just a very scary character, very intimidating. And what I like too is, like, as the story went along, there was a little nuance to her character. It wasn't like you didn't want her to succeed, but she wasn't just, you grew to understand a little bit more about her. And the fact that, I guess we're saying this, but this occurred early anyway. The fact that she killed her sisters in the womb right there is like, that's a very scary person. From before she was born, she was dangerous. So yeah, and it was kind of interesting too as it went along. She wasn't totally as omnipotent as I thought she was, but from at the beginning, a very scary, intimidating character.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, she's a terrifying character, especially at the beginning. But I'm going to go into a little bit later on how her character arc is very different. Yeah, Mark.
I thought it was a really nice twist on the sort of mythological trope of the witches, the mother, the maiden, and the crone. It was taking something pretty well established when you're talking about sort of, folklore, fairy tales, mythology, that sort of stuff, and making them very different and also really quite scary. It was, her as effectively the maiden version of it, in the three. Yeah. She was pretty single-minded and terrifying. However, again, like you said, Cliff, the fact that she wasn't just a straight mustache twirling villain.
Yeah.
She had understandable motivations. Not it wasn't excusable, but it was understandable, her motivations. And then she kind of went on an arc with that as well. So she didn't just stay single-minded in what she wanted. Actually, you could say that about all of the villains in this, is that, in most cases, you have a single-minded villain, they want one thing. In this, what they're aiming for evolves over the course of the story, which I thought was really, really clever.
Yeah. Now, I love about Clive Barker, and especially in this book, the villains are ambiguous. They, like you say, you'd expect a villain to go out and just want to kill and be completely evil. And it's like the same as like, this is supposed to be a fantasy, right? This is good versus evil, right? It doesn't work like that in this universe. There's levels and layers and ambiguity. I mean, even the seer kind are supposed to be, they come across as these fairy tales, like you said, from Midsummer's Night Dream from Shakespeare. But they lovely creatures. These creatures, the seer kind, have like one's an assassin, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the one's a bloody sex maniac, that little baby that becomes man. The
Nimrod.
baby that, Nimrod, yeah. And you got thieves, and so everyone is flawed, and that's why it should be. And so he's taking these ideas of good versus evil in fantasy, and in what we expect from fantasy and fairy tales, and he subverts that. And I think in Immaculata, I mean, yes, at the beginning, she's like a black Madonna, and she is a virgin, which makes her more powerful. What I read somewhere, now it's interesting, is that she throttled her two sisters in the womb, right? She was one of three, and the one of them is a nymphomaniac ghost by her side. We're going to go to that later. And yet she's a virgin. She gets her power from that, and it's where power comes from. And I think the fact that she's a virgin makes her more powerful. It's this whole sexual play again. But I do love her arc. And the big spoiler, it's only after death, that she starts to see and she starts to feel. Yeah, not responsible, but yeah, that she wants to make amends, or she wants to do something right. Am I right there? I can't remember now. I think it's after she dies. Hey.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not until afterwards that she really starts to make amends. Yeah, there is very much life after death in this for some of the characters.
Okay, let me talk about one of my favorite characters. You know who it is. Good old Hobart. This guy. I'm not talking about him. You're talking about it. It's your turn.
He was a proper bastard. He really, really was. As far, you talk about some villains being
I might argue against you later on. I'm going to let you two finish, and then I've got an argument against that.
All right.
You say that he's a proper bastard. I say that might be something redeeming in terms of him. So carry on.
There is an argument to say on that, but for a large proportion of this, he is a real bastard. I mean, he is arguably worse than the majority of these supernatural villains. And
I skipped Shadow. Oh, we'll go to him next. Okay.
We'll go back to Shadwell, but Hobart was it's interesting that when we look at sort of Callance's, and they had experienced the fugue, and they became obsessed with being able to be involved with it and all of that. Hobart's obsession was entirely directed towards Susanna, and just to the point where it was just destroyed his career and everything. All he wanted was just to take her down.
Yeah. Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I would second what Mark said. First, I got to say too that, like, for me, um, police who like abuse their power is
Yeah.
like one of the most difficult things for me to read. Not that it ever happened to me, but I mean, like, that's one of the most difficult things for me to read. So when I was first introduced with Hobart, I thought, geez, like I like had trouble continue reading to see what he was going to do next because yeah, he's like Hobart. It changes as it goes on, but Hobart is grounded in reality because
Oh yeah.
those people exist, and like just his willingness to really his view of the law is just his view, and really to thwart what the real view is to accomplish what he wanted to. And like to me, like yeah, like Mark said, to me, like Hobart is like worse in some ways than the others because like he's just grounded in reality, and I find those kind of characters really difficult to read. Law enforcement that like abuses their power like that. So I don't know. It's I mean they changed maybe as it went along some, but like I Hobart's character really was like really difficult for me early on to read. But the stuff he did, and like I like I say, I hesitated to go to the next page, his next section, see what I was going to do because he
Okay,
just
now it's not true.
yeah
Now it's not true because actually he's not really that bad a guy.
okay. I'm willing to be maybe convinced, but
What I'm going to say that he believes that what he's doing is right. Absolutely makes him more scary.
That's
It makes him more dangerous. It makes him more fearful. But he believes that he is doing the right thing for people because he had experience before with terrorists. And it talks about that he had this experience where everyone was dead and everything. So he refuses to accept that there's a supernatural explanation for what's going on. He single-mindedly believes that he is out to do the right thing. So yes,
not better.
no, he's a bastard. Okay, he's a bastard. Stop it now. But you know what I'm saying. He's literally single-minded because he believes that he's doing the right thing, which makes it scary. And remember that he has that confrontation with Susanna in the police station. Or I can't remember where it was, where there's the dragon and the maiden.
No, I think that's in the fugue later. Was I in the police station?
Yeah, no, that's later. Yeah. No, sorry, that's later. But he has this confrontation, and the two of them are actually very, very alike.
I'd agree with that.
She cannot accept her past, and she could not accept her past and her legacy of being part of this fairy folk, right? And for a long time, she neglected it because of what happened, for the pain of her past. It was quite something for her to actually step up and take control of her life. And this is who I am. He refuses to the point where he will not see supernatural influence in anything. He sees terrorists, or he sees whatever. I can't remember what is it. Anarchists, whatever. The way he talks about it in the novel. And so it's he's a scary, terrible character. But once again, Stephen King, Clive Barker, even a character like that is a real boss. You have to think like, okay, he thinks he's doing what's right. He's got motivation. Clive Barker gives his characters motivations.
Oh, he's the hero of his story.
Yeah, a lot more complex motivations than, you can say he's a bastard. He behaves like terrible. He's a terrible character. But at the end, he is just still, at the end, when he's inside that, we're going to get to angel, demon, whatever the character is. And he's forced to confront what's happening in front of him with what he wanted to be all along. But now he no longer wants to be because he sees what he is and he sees what's happening, right? So there's a character arc there as well. So he gets to reject. He wants to reject that self that he adhered to for the whole novel, because he sees the consequences, and he sees and he learns the truth about his nature, about Go on.
I push back on that just a little bit about the fact that he thinks he's doing the right thing. I think it's less about he thinks he's doing the right thing. I think he thinks the ends justify the means. And he knows in a lot of cases he's absolutely not doing the right thing. But he believes that the ends justify the means for him.
Fair enough. But still.
Oh, you're frozen, Cliff. Stuart, are you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah.
I don't know if that am I gone?
Oh, you know again, Cliff. Yeah, you're back again.
Am I back again? Yeah. Okay, the end justifies the means. How am I going to argue against it? Okay, no, but let's look at the means, right? Well, let's look at the end point. He thinks that he's doing the right thing. So I'll stand by it. He thinks he's doing the right thing. And as bad as his means are, he thinks he's doing the right thing. And he refuses to see any possibility that there's magic and that there's, because that's not who he is.
Yeah, but I mean, like his view is towards the law and how important the law is. But he has no problem whatsoever with breaking any law at all, just as long as all motivations are made. I agree. He does have a redemption towards the end, but he's
focus on the redemption. Focus on the redemption. Okay, focus on the arc. Better than
bastard he is.
Stuart, what do you think of my argument?
I think your argument's a good argument, but I think like Mark said, it's like, he does justify everything, and I think he can justify everything he does, and it's just like, I don't know, to me, like that makes a person like that ultimately dangerous, and the supervisors allowed it because he got results, but
oh, it's very dangerous. I have no qualms with that. I was just throwing a
hand grenade.
I mean, he did fight at the end. He did fight at the end. So
yeah. Well, it's actually your turn, Stuart, to actually talk about Shadwell, I think.
Yeah, Shadwell's an interesting character. He kind of like attached himself to Immaculata, and somehow because he was a good salesman, he was able to like survive with her, and like probably not easy doing so. And his character arc was interesting too, because he seemed just like a typically could sell anything to anybody, but his goals ended up being a lot higher than that toward the end. And he proved to be more dangerous than he appeared to be. Like his ambitions proved to be dangerous. He had like, there was depth to his character, and you might not like him, but you understand him. I
think he has a lot of depth. I think.
Yeah, he was. Seems like a sidekick at first, but he had aspirations to be more than a sidekick. So, yeah, it was. He's another very dangerous one, which you learn as the story goes along.
Yeah, Mark.
I'd agree with the part about the fact that at the beginning he just feels like he's the muscle, he's the sidekick, he's the he's the one who's out doing the dirty deeds for Immaculata. I think if you wrote Shadwell today, people would look at that and think you are way too on the nose. I mean, the fact that this was written in 87, now you've got a character there who is basically a bit of a grifter and a sales guy who then becomes a cult.
Careful with this going.
It's I think if that book came out now, people would look at that and go, you're a bit on the nose with this one. I think you're trying to make your political point a bit too much. The fact that it came out in 87, you're kind of thinking, Clive Barker, did you have a bit of a crystal ball in your hands?
Yeah. No, he's probably the most dangerous character for me. And it's interesting that it's not. Yeah, you got the scourge, and you got magic, and you got all these things, but it's not all of that that's the most dangerous in this book. It's this manipulative bastard who uses his coat to basically, give you whatever you want. But then he takes part of you and uses you, and it's all just to make himself more and more powerful. And he does get very powerful. And for him, I think it's a question of that he gradually chips away at Immaculata. And whereas initially she's a sidekick, at the end, he strips her away of her power. He strips her away. And he wants to become this like God or whatever. But also the thing I like is that with him, he brings in, remember that whole thing with, we're going to maybe go into religion later, but he brings in the whole, gets the name of the creatures?
Seerkind?
Seerkind. Gets them to fight against each other, right? And what does he bring into it? Guns. He brings into it human weapons as opposed to magic, which is supposed to be powerful. So he's a typical man. And I can see your analogy. Yeah. He's just powerful, and he's stepping stones, and he manipulates people around him, gets people to listen to him, hence my whole religion thing, right? Gets people that's not even, the Seerkind, not even part of his, not even part of him. They start listening to him. He comes across as a preacher. What is it? Like one of those, help me out, one of those Pentecostal preachers where he disguises himself. He disguises himself as that. And, saying...
Calls him prophet.
Yeah, false prophet. Also makes me think about... Okay, now I'll stop now.
I would say one thing... It is interesting with him. I mean, as his motivations change, his thought was that he wanted to rule. First of all, he wanted to be able to, get this deal of the century with being able to sell the Weaveworld of the Fugue. That was the starting point. Then when he got a glimpse of it, he realized he wanted it. He wanted it for himself. But when he got to the point of wanting it for himself, he pursued it to the point where he was happy to tear it all down, where there was nothing left of it as long as it was his.
Obsession. Yeah, absolute obsession. It's going to be mine even if there's nothing left.
Yeah, just escalation that he's just going to push it further and further and take ever more drastic steps. Yeah,
I'm actually wanting to change this conversation now because making me uncomfortable. So I'm going to go to, now we're going to talk about, and let's say other characters that you guys found interesting, because I want to go to places after.
Can I add one, actually? Because there was one which I unfortunately thought kind of got short shrift in it, and I thought could have been a really compelling villain throughout this, was the assassin Rake that Immaculata sent after them. He was really scary. And
we're getting to monsters later, people. We're getting to monsters later. No, you can carry on. No, carry on. No, carry on. Now tell me about it. It was scary. You carry on. Carry on. I want to hear it now. We got other stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, it's. I just thought that had the. I thought that had the potential to be a really continuing scary villain throughout the piece, but actually he ended up being pretty ineffective. Even as terrifying as he was, it was like, train hits him, he's done.
Get him on the other side of the train track, yeah. Stuart, any favorite character beside all of those?
One of the characters, I cannot remember his name, but he was kind of interesting. He was one of the Seerkind. He became kind of like a guide to Cal for a while before he separated off. And unfortunately, his name escapes me. But he was.
I know who you're talking about. The guy by the fire. The guy by the fire.
Yeah. Actually, and he went into a fire too, like for help Cal. Yeah, that character was was pretty interesting. He had he had a role for a little while, so you got to know him a little bit. You know, Cal had to keep him kind of on the straight and narrow, but he did help out Cal.
Yeah, I like that guy in the orchard. You know, the guy goes there and he drinks that. When he eats that fruit, fruit with the drink. Yeah, it's a fruit in the orchard.
Yeah,
that main guy there. That was a lovely little fantasy scene there, where Cal reads a poem.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cal eating the fruits, even though he told he shouldn't, and Lo, the guy who owned the orchard, and then he recited a poem in a group, and they loved it. Yeah, that was a good.
All I'll say to Cal is cheers. So okay, let's talk about places, because there are some very interesting places. And before I talk about specific places, I want to compare Cuckoo Land. That's Layla. Can you hear Layla?
We can hear Layla.
Yeah, Cuckoo Land with the fugue, right? Actually, before we do that, let's talk about the fugue. Okay, what makes a fugue interesting to you? And whose turn is it to go first? That's the question.
I think it's Stuart's.
Is it mine? Okay, the fugue.
Well,
Yeah, basically, I got some words here for you. So I did a bit of research. Okay, fugue, Latin or flight, refugee, fugitive. Just thought you might be interested about how he chose the name for that. Because he's very good with names, isn't he? They're very interesting. Right, yeah. So I found the most interesting thing about the fugue is that, it's a carpet, but they were running away and they had to take everything as fast as they can in order to weave into this carpet. And so you got this geometry, and you got these buildings and these streets, and with the walls closing on each other, all sorts of different stuff thrown into each other. And I just found that very interesting about the fugue.
What I liked about it was the fact that it wasn't what you got with what they did with the carpet, what they wove into the carpet. It wasn't the full fugue. What they did was they took the bits that they liked the best, the most important bits, and they sort of scrunched them up together and made that into the carpet. So it was almost like the carpet that they see, even that isn't the full fugue. It's like it's the fugue's greatest hits that you get to see on there rather than the full fugue itself.
Yeah. All thrown in like a kind of a cauldron pot, which made it fun. Yeah. Stuart?
One thing, this might be like something we discuss later, but what I found most interesting about the fugue once it was they were in it was I'm not sure pronunciation, but the Geyer, like they created it. I found that when they went into it, like Cal and Susanna were into that. I found that really Shadwell too. I found that really interesting. The Geyer. I don't know if I fully understood it, but that was very interesting to me.
Can I tell you what I found very interesting comparing two places? And I know we're jumping the gun a bit here, but comparing the Gyre to the Garden of Eden. That when you walk in this magical place, the Gyre, it's fertility, right? Everywhere you walk, the plants pop up, and it's just magical fertility. And when they go into the what was it called? The quarter. We're going to get there later. The quarter in the desert. So they found the Garden of Eden, that space, and they step on things, but they grow, but then they wither. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I
find that contrast very interesting. I don't know if you noticed that contrast, that during the Gyre, when Carl's going up, you step on, plants just grow. There's a fertility. I don't know if I thought about religion then. Maybe Clive Barker was kind of thinking about it. Christianity, I'm not going to go there. But in the supposed Garden of Eden in the middle of the desert, where you have characters we're going to get to now, You step there, and it's just withered plants, just everything's dead.
The religious aspect was not accidental at all. I
No,
mean,
of
like
course
it was that was very, very intentional. I think there's an undercurrent of the founding of religions and the stories that have gone into the creation stories within religions. The fugue and what people remember about the fugue and the stories that they've told about the fugue, that is what has driven those stories. That they are all rooted in the fugue, so that the fugue is actually this, and the gyre and all of that, they are, and it's almost like they're a collective memory of people, and that collective memory is what has gone into the formation of religious beliefs and stories.
But I don't believe that Clive Barker is anti-Christianity.
No,
I think he's agnostic. I think he's just tapping into our mythology and our beliefs and everything to create the story.
Because it's not just Judeo-Christian type beliefs and all that sort of stuff. It's all sorts of mythology. I mean, like I said, the Immaculata is the maiden, the Cronins, and the mother. You know, it's all of those various different plucking
together
mythology and sort of shared fantastical pasts and just weaving them together, if you will.
Yeah. Stuart?
I thought, based on that topic, I thought it was interesting that there was a point where I thought he was going to go with the biblical view on things, and he kind of skewed from that. It's like you mentioned, like the in the desert, the fox garden of Eden, and like I thought it was good that he kind of deviated. I thought he was going to go where, and he deviated from it. He started from it, but he didn't stay there. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, he kept the scourge very, very interesting because it was ambiguous. It's almost like even the ending with the scourge. Everything about the scourge is up to the imagination of the reader. Is it really this angel that's forgotten itself sitting in the Garden of Eden, or is it some other creature out in space or whatever? But I think and not just that, I think he purposefully keeps a lot of stuff vague.
Yeah.
And lets the reader fill in the gaps, which I think is actually kind of smart. Yeah. Lets us use our own imagination. I've read stuff about this. You know, the first passage that he writes in the whole book, nothing ever begins, nothing ever ends. There's no beginnings and endings. Whatever. He makes us fill in all the gaps. Where I think a lot of critics will say, "Oh, we don't know what happens to this character. We don't know what happens." It's us use our imagination to fill in those gaps. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like when books don't give you everything. I like it when they just hint enough around the edges that you can infer what you want, and you can almost. I don't like it when everything is entirely mapped out for you and you've got all of the answers. It's quite nice to have a level of ambiguity.
As Stuart said, and I never actually noticed that. As Stuart says, you never know which direction that's going to go. And that actually was very interesting. Is he going to stay with that Garden of Eden and that? Yeah, that was fascinating. Okay, let's talk about. We talked about the sea current. Creepy little.
We kind of mentioned them, yeah.
Yeah, nasty little fairies.
Yeah.
Well, they're ambiguous. They're like you would expect in a good versus evil book, with the sea cards and the fairies, right? Not thieving, dishonest, lying, philanthroping, all that sort of thing. You wouldn't expect that. You wouldn't expect there to be a assassin amongst fairies. In good versus evil, like Tolkien. I mean, Clive Barker talks about Tolkien when he does these fantasy books. They get good versus evil. It's kind of cut and dried. So this year, kind of like we relate to them more because they kind of got human. That's
They're
because they're
kind
magical beings.
children a lot of the time.
What? Okay.
They're kind of like squabbling children a lot of the time. There's
Stuart, have you got
a sort of immaturity that goes with them. They're, you know, again, like you said, it's not a straight, you know, they're the fairies, so they are the good guys. It's like they're on a spectrum. So there's asshole fairies as well as, you know, the sweet lovable ones.
Well, you know what Clive Barker says in one of his interviews? Well, fairies that have sex, fairies that fart, fairies that swear, there you go. They're just like us. Stuart?
Yeah, the certainly the first I believe it was 5 when we first met them. Those first 5, yes, they were. Well, for instance, like Nimrod, he started out. He's essentially a dirty old man in an infant's body, right? So yes, that's so you know, right there, it's like I grew to like the guy. That wasn't a good introduction for me, but well, I grew to respect. He did help, but you know, and I think one of them was a prostitute essentially, and I don't remember Jericho, but exactly the specifics. But like, yes, they were like the first 5 were definitely, they weren't like they weren't evil, but they weren't like great good fairies either. They were
Well, you also got to remember that they were on the edge of the carpet.
yeah.
So they were on the outskirts of society. So you got this kind of ragtag group. Yeah, I'm sorry, that guy. That woman is going, little baby. You see cops the field.
Yeah.
He has the magic to transform himself into a baby, but he can't get back up again.
Have you guys seen the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
I have. I can't remember it, but
that was Nimrod.
Oh no, yeah, no, he was. That made me laugh out loud. That's all I can say. Okay, the Scourge. I know we've talked about this. Is it an angel? Is it a creature from space? It's forgotten who it is. Either one of you?
Well, my interpretation was it wasn't an angel, but so I just believed it's an angel. But again, as you say, it's open to interpretation. I just thought it built like a belief system around itself, and it was trying to embody that. But he'd been deserted, I guess, left to fend on his own. So I personally didn't think he's an angel, but it depends what perspective you're coming to. But I don't know where I would believe he did come from. I guess maybe from space is what I might believe, but that's just my perspective.
So I'm going to do a Dark Tower thing now. Not spoiler, I promise. This creature forgot the face of its father for a long, 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 hell of a long time.
I mean, it's the thing had gone mad. I mean, there's no question about it. It's, you know, whether it was an angel or some sort of powerful entity that started to believe its own press or whatever it happened to be, and had actually seen the creation stories and then assumed that about itself because enough of it was about it that it now then assumed that it was the agent of the creator. Whatever it was, it had clearly just gone nuts. It was just gone. It was it wasn't even a malevolent force. It was just a complete force almost omnipotent force that just had lost the plot.
I like the fact that at the end, it's not, and then Clive Barker does this. He subverts expectations, right? Not about killing the monster, not about killing the monster, destroying the monster, like letting it blow up or whatever. In this case, it's about healing the monster.
Yeah.
Right? Showing it its true face. Yeah. What do you see? What do you desire? Cult, hero. What do you desire? And the only thing it desires is to know itself. That's so profound and it's so like wow. Yeah. There goes Layla again.
Yeah.
Sorry?
She agrees.
Yeah, it's cats out there, I think. So don't have any choice. So what do you think, Stuart? What do you think of that end with the creature?
I thought it was good. It was the way it ended was the only way you could defeat the Scourge. You had to convince it. You couldn't physically defeat it.
No.
It wouldn't have been possible. So you had to use your brains. Cal used his brains to convince it. It was really the only way. And as it was getting close to the end, I was wondering, how can this end? Because I didn't see a way. I didn't see, because it was too powerful a creature to defeat any other way.
Unstoppable creature, yeah.
It was unstoppable, yeah. There was, yeah.
What?
Yeah, totally agree. As a means of actually dealing with it, the villain had it wasn't really a villain. It was more of a force of nature than anything else, and it had just been set up as just so unstoppable. It was so unstoppable that an entire world decided to hide itself in order to, for hundreds of years, in order to just get out from under its radar, and the combined force of everyone in that world could do nothing about it. And it was just Cal's ability to just turn it back on itself, to just, to turn it around and say, right, what is it you are actually looking for? Is, the destruction is a means to an end. What's the end that you actually want?
Yeah. Should we quickly check and see if there are some folk who are leaving comments? Yeah. We haven't done it for a while. Let's check. Hello, friends. Nicole, how's it, Nicole?
Hey, hello, Nicole.
Ooh, snap. So many cool cats on my screen right now. Thanks, Nicole.
So many bearded
Roger Royal, I'm definitely pushing Weaveworld up onto you artists in the back of your passion towards this book. It's a beautiful book.
I read it, man. Honestly, it's a great book.
Yeah. And then we're going to themes. Now, I don't know how to approach this because there are so many awesome themes. So let me just go through some and let's just talk about them, right? What I think is, well, okay, let's start with the obvious one: the ordinary worlds, the mundane worlds, and the magical worlds. And I'm going to start with this, just in terms of, and we spoke earlier about the structure of the book. One thing you guys didn't mention is, like in terms of that it alternates between moving from the real world and back and forth into the magical world. And at times it overlaps. And that's all very much on purpose. So it's where the real world and the magical worlds overlap. It's like you have to confront, not just escape when you're reading a book. It's not just about escaping into the magical world, but you also got to confront what's happening in the real world in relation to the magical world and come to terms with that. So whose turn is it? Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think it's kind of interesting about it is that even though the real world is kind of portrayed as kind of mundane, but the magical world, although magical, isn't like all, everything great and all, flowers and stuff, everything wonderful. There's a lot of problems there too. So it's not like if you're in the magical world, there's not gonna be things you got to deal with, and even beyond like a creature like the Scourge trying to destroy your whole location. So it's like it's not as much of a contrast as you might normally have, because the world of the few has a lot of dangers too. So it's not one you can totally go into and it's just totally everything's great. So
Well,
I probably have a slightly different perspective from a lot of people who might read this, because where you've got fantasy typically where it involves a mundane world versus a magical world or whatever it happens to be, whether it be
evil, elves, and
all of that sort of stuff, whether it be Chronicles of Narnia or whatever it happens to be. In most cases, even though the real world that's described, even though it's a mundane world, it's still kind of separate. You know, I mean, like, I didn't grow up in the war in London, so I don't have the sort of perspective of the children from the Chronicles of Narnia when they go through the wardrobe into the magical world. But the locations that they're talking about in Liverpool and all, that's about 20 miles that way for me. So I'm so close to home to see something that is that close to, you know, the actual world around me, and then for it to be that different, it was an interesting experience, I have to say. Normally it's normally like a Stephen King book, you know, he's doing the Dark Tower where you're going back and forth between Midworld and New York. Well, New York is almost as much a fantasy location for me as Midworld is. I've been there, but you know, it's still, you know, the place you see in the movies and stuff. Liverpool is just a town that's that way. And you know, when they're talking about going out into the Wirral for the auction in that house that's on the Wirral outside of the city, that is, you know, we're talking driving distance of about half an hour for me.
Yeah, makes a huge difference. The fact that you live right there.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't actually bring it up, but like, come back to the whole ambiguity again, and the real world and the fantasy world, and how Clive Barker treats fantasy, and how Clive Barker treats good versus evil. I'm not going to even mention that because that's up next. The whole idea of good versus evil, the real world versus the fantasy world, it merges, it blends, it's ambiguous, and just with the characters and the Seerkind and the humans, and all of them are flawed. Even the landscapes are flawed. So yeah, I can't really say much more about that. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that, but it's just ambiguous. It blends into each other to the point, even when remember when they do the rapture and the Seerkind and it kind of falls into Earth, and that there's still cars and there's still humans that don't see what's going on, and there's broken stuff, and you know, the luckiest ones don't actually notice what's going on, and they wander around in a daze. That's like the idea that something happens right in front of your eyes, which is classic fairy, and you can't see it because it's secret behind. Right? I don't know what else to say about that particular topic.
I think the good versus evil is a really interesting one, but it's not a binary. These are good, that's evil. They're all on a spectrum, and there just seems to be a dividing line somewhere on the spectrum that says
where but that's where other fantasy authors, and that's where other fantasy novels like Narnia and like Lord of the Rings, he's taking those and he's making fantasy his own. They don't have spectrums like he does.
No.
They like something like Narnia is. I mean, you got the Aslan, you know, the Jesus figure, Aslan, and you got the wicked witch, and you have only evil and only good. A battle between good and evil.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's not that. It's complicated. Even the characters have their own thoughts and motivations and ways of doing things. So it's all like, that's what I love about Clive Barker. Way more imaginative than that.
It's like the way Shadwell turns Seerkind against Seerkind when he's doing as the prophet, because you've got a whole lot of people who feel justifiably that they've been left behind and abandoned, and that, you know, they have been put from their home, they have, you know, lost everything and been abandoned to their fate, and he manipulates that, you know. So what you end up with is, you know, essentially good people with genuine grievances in doing unspeakable things as a result of being manipulated.
Manipulation. Yeah. Whereas in other fantasy worlds, elves, fairies, they're beyond kind of they're not going to be manipulated. They're pure good, right? They're not going to, they don't have time with the world of men. So what he does is, he just subverts all of that, which I love, right? Do you want to add to that, Stuart? Should we move on?
Yeah, nothing I think can add to what you guys said. Yeah, very enlightening.
Authority, corruption, power. I mean, Stuart, you can start with this. We've kind of dealt with that already. Authority.
Yeah, I mean, like when I talk about like Hobart, that's like authority that like gone amok kind of. Certainly, there's a lot of powerful characters, like the Scourge being the most powerful. Yeah. But the Scourge wasn't necessarily corrupt, like just kind of lost kind of the past to some extent. But I'm not sure I can really add anything to that. I mean, we talked about the powerful characters, and I can't think of any characters we didn't talk about.
We've actually been pretty thorough, to be honest, there.
Yeah, I can't think of any ones we didn't already touch upon this particular theme.
I've got a final theme that I think Clive Barker thinks is the most important, and I think it's very important as well. That is memory. I'm going to just read something to you. But once is imagined, can never be lost. Okay, that's imagination as well. But also, when Cull, the first time he sees the carpet, he goes home. I've seen wonder. I've seen a world of wonder, and he tries to find it again, but it starts to go away, right? Memory starts to fade. And you get to see a kind when they're in there, some of the refugees in the world of the cuckoos, they lose their memories of magic. They lose when they're in this mundane, boring existence of people. You lose your memory of magic. And it's just, I think it's just that idea of like, when Cull first saw that bird and saw the carpet and had that experience falling into the carpet, it's like that idea of like reliving childhood, reliving a memory of childhood just sparks you to life, your imagination, your joy. And I think that's why memory is so important, because as you grow into adulthood, kind of coming of age thing now, but when you grow into adulthood, you forget things. You forget who you were as a young child, riding your bike, doing your thing, experiencing joy. You forget those memories because you're so caught up in the pain and the trauma of being alive and living that you kind of forget responsibility. You've got responsibility for this. You get what I'm saying? So I think memory is a huge thing. And at the end of the book, he's traumatized, and he goes and but he forgets everything except for Susanna. And then right at the end of the book, right, is that hope. We can bring this back. Remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
And I want just to add to that as well is, memory is a massively important theme in it, because one of the things that Shadwell as a character does is he weaponizes memory. He weaponizes the memory of Cal on his father. He weaponizes that to turn to his own advantage, and it as an event, it is so damaging to Cal's father that it jumpstarts his dementia, and he starts to lose himself, and all of his memory and personality go. As Cal is forgetting about the fugue, Cal's father is forgetting about everything. But the interesting thing as well is that it's weaponized by Shadwell, but it's also a powerful tool for Cal as well, because his memory of his grandfather, the poet, is what endears him to the seer kind, and what is where he starts to get his memory of what was it, Mad Mooney or whatever he was called, the grandfather, the poet. His memory of him is the driving force, the inspiration to make Cal want to keep moving forward with everything that he's doing, and it's the thing that his poetry from his grandfather is what endears him. So it's that memory. Memory is it's not just a theme that runs through it, it's a powerful thing that impacts on the story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never thought about that weaponizing thing. And now that I think about it, it just runs through the whole novel. Stu?
Yeah, just like it's like Mark said, it's interesting contrasting Cal's memory, losing the memory of the fugue, to his father's declining in memory too. That's like, for me, that's kind of like having dealt with my mother in her declining years. That's like something I'm really kind of sympathetic for, like people like losing their memory. I mean, even myself, sometimes I wish I think some people remember their childhood days, their school times a little better than I do. And sometimes that's a little disturbing. So yeah, loss of memory is, it's something that really kind of I take to heart, kind of.
Yeah. And Stuart, are there any other themes that you were thinking about that you should talk about? Before we finish with this, like kind of like themes. You've got a couple of other topics, but like something that stands out for you in the novel. I know you mentioned something earlier.
Well, one of the things I mentioned earlier, which kind of the theme of when you guys talk about not everything is spelled out, is one of the things I mentioned earlier. It might come into a later discussion, but in the introduction, the one I have, Barker talked about he won't do a sequel, and even though people want it, and I wonder what people think about that. He thinks this is a complete novel, but there's of course others who would like to see the loose ends tied up.
Mark?
I think it should be left as it is. I agree with Barker on that one. Whatever happens to Cal afterwards in your own head, it's going to be infinitely more satisfying than whatever Clive Barker.
Their endings and their stories and their beginnings and their endings. Yeah, up to your imagination. But I also think this book is not really a book that can be very well adapted to the movie format. There is too much going on. I would love it. I would love to see it happen. But there's just so much going on. So I'm not sure if that.
I think you could do the 3 books as 3 seasons of a TV series. That would work. But you'd need that amount of room to have all of those characters, to have all of those themes brought into it. This isn't something you can boil down into 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's like saying the Dark Tower series by Stephen King can be filmed in 2 hours. No,
and they proved that it couldn't.
Not going to happen. Okay, people, let's talk horror now quickly. Because I mean, if we talk about genre, this book is dark fantasy with horror elements. Just Clive Barkian horror, Clive Barkian fantasy. How would you describe it? And also, like, in terms of the horror elements, are they effective? Talk about some of your favorite scenes, least favorite scenes, horror, all that stuff. Stuart.
To me, the most horrific parts of it are the 2 sisters. They were the most horrific, and when they came onto the screen and the things that they did, which probably I can't even describe some of those things on here.
Well, do you want me to help you, Stuart?
Can I help you? Yeah.
Can I help you? Nymphomaniac ghost rapes men and gives birth to abnormal, mutated, messed up little creatures that want to eat you. How's
that was the scariest. Yes, that actually you verbalized. I didn't know if I could say that on here. That was the scariest part of it. Yes, those the assaults by those one of those creatures. Yes, and the result of that. So
And they're
to
just
me,
like,
that was the most. And I guess like that was maybe the most horrific. I guess like maybe even though maybe it wouldn't be viewed that way. I think the just like how dangerous and how like almost omnipotent the scourge was, that was kind of horrific to me too. But more than anything, it was the two sisters. They were, yeah, especially that one sister. Yeah, whenever they came into the picture, I feared for whoever they were interacting with. You know, they were under Immaculata's control, but they were like kind of like more dangerous than her almost because the things they did.
And their offspring.
Yeah. That looked like you.
Yeah, that was creepy.
I mean, one of the most disturbing things is when Cole, when they, got to be careful how I say this on YouTube.
This needle, come on, I'm interested now. Come on.
when she takes his seed, and then blots out, spits out, no, blots out a little Cal.
Yeah.
Looks a little bit like him, but he's mutated, evil, and he wants to eat Cal. Yeah, he's scary. Clive Barker is scary. It's not for everyone, but it's so creative, so creative, so creative. I mean, these creatures are terrifying. They're terrifying, and yeah, and Immaculata is a very simple way of she's got someone she wants answers from. She says, "Okay, sister."
Okay, dear.
Mark, some favorite scenes? All right.
Here's an interesting one. Now, I started doing as I was prepping for the call, and because I finished reading this about a month ago, and so I just was reacquainting myself with some bits and pieces and just doing a bit of searching online of topics and points to discuss on it. And one of the things that really, really stood out to me was Rake, the assassin, the one who
you mentioned that at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one thing. It was this creature. It was a cuckoo who became obsessed with Immaculata and wanted to impress her. So he ended up trying these necromantic rituals, and then ended up being hunted by what were referred to as these surgeons who had completely destroyed his body.
Can I interrupt you, or do you know what the surgeons are?
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
Well, that was what I came about when I was in this, is that the surgeons are the Cenobites from the Hellraiser book, from Hellbound Heart. And when you read it, it's like, oh my God, that is, he refers to them as surgeons in this, but when you hear about how they were summoned and how what they did to Rake, the character, it's like, oh, I saw someone had written that online that those were the surgeons of the Cenobites. It was like, wait, what? I have to go back and reread that bit.
Yeah, no, that was insane. A connection with Hellraiser is just absolutely insane. Yeah, and I want to, before we go on to more horror, because I've got something else for you. Let's see if there are any more questions. Come on, people, where are you all? Oh, snap. Okay. Very cool. Cats on screen. Oh, no, this is one of those videos that is going to be so awesome, people. Guys, you hearing this? It's going to be so awesome, it's going to be replayed over and over and over again. We might not have a live audience now. Maybe someone like Mark's Book Reviews or Ollie, or someone having a live show right now. So, sorry. Yeah. I'm definitely pushing Weaveworld. Yeah. Don't have a huge audience. People didn't like this book. I don't understand it. Do you understand it? I really don't understand it.
I get why it wouldn't be for everyone. I get why there's someone. It's so hard to put in a box to say that this is what sort of story this is. It's not a typical Clive Barker horror, although it has huge horror elements running through it. It's not a standard fantasy thing. There's as you said, it has themes of good and evil, but it's very, very grey throughout it, and I liked it an awful lot. I could see why people wouldn't necessarily know what box to put it in, but that's kind of what I like about it.
But that's almost like what Clive Barker is about. He doesn't like to put things in boxes. He likes to challenge the reader. He doesn't want to put things in clean little boxes.
Unless it's like a little puzzle box that you twist and open. And
He wants to make things unpredictable, and he wants to be ambiguous. He wants to, the fantastic. He's creative, and his mind is just so fertile for creating images, creating horror, creating stuff like we just talked about, what you talked about. He's a painter. Have you seen his paintings? He's an artist.
Yeah.
Have you seen his art? His art is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's just amazing. Yeah. Okay. I think what I should do, and I want to actually ask you guys first of all, do you have any other favorite quotes? Do you want me to start with one tiny little one just to get the ball running? Just because I know that no one's watching, so I can say this. I saw up in the best quotes for this book. I found it, and I can't remember where it was. So maybe you can tell me. Are you ready for this? See if you remember where this is from. He felt sick as a flea in a leper's jock strap.
That's brilliant. I don't remember when that was in there.
You remember that in this book?
No, I actually don't. It's fantastic.
He felt sick as a flea in a leper's jockstrap. How about a simile there for you, ladies and gentlemen?
It's a pretty good one.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah.
Favorite quote for me, I started going back through it, and I have to say, it has a phenomenal opening paragraph. Genuinely, it's beautifully written, that opening paragraph. And just to read it, it says, "Nothing ever begins. There is no first moment, no single word or place from which this or any other story springs. The threads can always be traced back to some earlier tale, and to the tales that precede that. Though as the narrator's voice recedes, connections will seem to grow more tenuous, for each age will want the tale told as if it is of its own making." It's for some schlocky fantasy horror, it's beautifully written.
Yeah. Stuart?
Let's see. Just going to read a little bit from the beginning of the introduction, and then maybe one more quote, because I'm not sure if this introduction was in other books. This is where he says, "I remember a window in a farmhouse in North Wales, which had a sill of whitewashed stone so deep I could sit sideways in it at the age of 6, hugging my knees to my chin. And that spying place had a view of the orchard of apple trees behind the house. The orchard seems large to me at the time, though in retrospect it probably contained fewer than 20 trees. In the heat of the afternoon, the farmyard cats, having exerted themselves mousing, went there to doze. And I went to hunt through the unkempt grass for eggs laid by nomadic hens. Behind that orchard was a low wall with an ancient mossy stile. Beyond the wall, an expanse of rolling meadow grazed by sheep with a sea of misty blue prospect. I have little way of knowing how accurate those memories are. Well over 40 years have passed since I was small enough to sit in that window niche. The photographs my parents took of those distant summers are still pasted in the musty pages of my mother's albums, but they're tiny, black and white, and often blurred. There are, it's true, a couple of pictures of cats dozing, but none of the orchard or the wall or the meadow. None of the windowsill where I sat. Perhaps it doesn't matter how accurate my memories are. All that matters is how powerful they move me. I still conjure the place in my dreams, and awake I have the details clear in my head. The smell of the nightlight my mother sat in the dresser in my bedroom, the dapple beneath the trees, the warmth and weight of an egg found in the grass, carried in the kitchen like unearthed treasure. Dreams are all the evidence I need. I was there once blissfully happy, and though I cannot tell you how, I believe I'll be there again. Farmhouse has long since disappeared. The cats are dead. The orchard's uprooted, but will be there again. I just thought that was where he then goes and talks about like how that kind of informed the book. And I just thought thinking back to those childhood memories and how they informed the book was something that stood out to me. It was in the introduction, not the story, but I thought it was a good introduction.
I want to talk about hell. I want to talk about hell. In the Damnation game, Clive Barker talks about hell as emptiness. And he goes on about like it just basically nothing. Hope's gone. It's just emptiness. So it's not like a place where there's a devil with a hook and everything else. It's devoid of hope. That's what hell is. Devoid of purpose, devoid of anything. And what he says here, I'm not even going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to say, okay. Many, having endured the void once, went back and back again, as if daring the desert to claim them. Remember the scene when they go through the desert? Yeah. Not content until it did. And those unhappy few who died at home died with their eyes not on the loving faces at their bedsides, nor on the cherry tree in blossom outside the window, but on that waste that called them only the abyss can call, promising the soul the balm of nothingness. And then later on, sick as a flea, no, sorry, no, not that one. So let it do its worst, if that at the last was inevitable. Let the void come and bring an end to the tyranny of hope. Like that. Emptiness. When we die, there's nothing. It's just, there's nothing. If you haven't read, what's it? Damnation Game, let's read that. I think a lot of these books bring this up about his ideas of hell. It's about fire and brimstone. It's about so much more than that. Yeah. Okay, guys, are we done with that?
I think so.
Any closing thoughts? I think that was a lot of fun.
I just think it's a really good book. It is long and it's maybe challenging, but I found it quite an enjoyable book to read. I enjoy this discussion too. So,
yeah. What?
I finished this book and I got on to my brother and I said, dude, you need to read this book. It's right up your street. And I would, while it's not necessarily an easy sell to people, because it's you can't sort of pitch it quite easily in a couple of sentences without sounding like a lunatic. What do you mean there's a world in a carpet? It's, even though it's not an easy sell, there's just so much in here. And even though there's so much in here, it's a really accessible book. It goes on at a great pace and you never get bored with it. I really think more people should be reading Weaveworld, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to get to it.
Yeah, and I've read it 3 times and I loved it every time. I found it, I think I found it the most magic, to be honest. I loved it all 3 times, but I found it the most magic the first time, because it was a book. Sometimes you read a book in your life when you need that book, right? Yeah, I was a young teen. I was not getting on with anyone. I didn't have friends. I was struggling. And I read this book and it did change me. You know what I mean? Magic world. Yeah. So that's why it has a specific thing in my heart, and I love it. Then I'll probably read it again when I'm 70, if I get that far.
I'll reread it at some point. I absolutely will.
Yeah. But I don't think anyone's watching at the moment, but that's okay. So those that are going to watch, or those that are watching, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, we're gonna say cheers to you. Don't even know whether. Oh, there it is. Yeah. We're gonna say cheers. Take care, everyone. And read Weaveworld. Beautiful book. Beautiful book. Cheers, guys. Stream. This is where you